I was sitting in church once, listening to a pastor talk. He was someone who thought that the Big Bang was an atheistic theory that pointed away from God rather than a theistic theory that pointed to God. And he described the Big Bang as a cosmic collision of gases. And it occurred to me he doesn't even understand what the Big Bang really is. So in this third video in the series of videos that's talking about the various chapters in my book, The Creator Revealed, I discuss and will discuss what the Big Bang is. Scientists actually use the term Big Bang in two different ways. One of the ways is to talk about the very beginning or origin of our universe, when all of space-time, matter, and energy came to existence. When people talk about it that way, they say we really don't know what occurred. And sometimes you'll read stories that say the Big Bang didn't really happen, and they're talking about that origin. But at other times people refer to the Big Bang as the period shortly after the beginning of the universe, when in fact we do understand what happened. Somewhere around 10 to the minus 30 seconds after the Big Bang or so. Before that there was something called cosmic inflation most likely, where the universe expanded extremely fast, and it's possible that we lose all information about what happened before that. But sometime about 10 to the minus 12 seconds after the Big Bang, we know what occurred. That's actually the era that we probe when we collide protons together in the CERN Large Hadron Collider where I work. At that time, there were just quarks and gluons, the fundamental structure of the universe there. And as the universe expanded and cooled, eventually those quarks began to form neutrons and protons, sometime about 10 to the minus 6 seconds after the Big Bang, after the origin. About 3 minutes after the origin, finally we begin to form the first fundamental nuclei, hydrogen and helium, a little bit of lithium, the smallest elements in the universe, just their nuclei, not the atoms themselves. It takes about 380,000 years before we finally begin to form atoms. And this is the period in which we see the cosmic microwave background radiation, which we'll talk about in the next video. This leftover residual heat from the Big Bang actually occurred because atoms began to form 380,000 years after the Big Bang. Then at about 500 million years, 500 million years after the Big Bang, galaxies and stars begin to form. And then a planet like ours, our solar system, finally forms about 8.5 billion years after the Big Bang, 8.5 to 9. Now, how do we know this? We're going to talk about the evidence for this in the next video. But what we do know is if we start with a universe that is small and hot and dense about 10 to the minus 12 seconds after the Big Bang, we understand the basic physics principles from that. And we can run computer simulations of what we expect to happen given everything we know about how the universe works, the physics that is well known. This is not things that we don't know. And when we put the physics that we know into our model and start about 10 to the minus 12 seconds after the Big Bang and run the computer simulations, we can get a universe that looks much like ours. The large scale structure of the galaxies looks like we expect. We form solar systems that look something like what we expect. We form stars and galaxies. And it's this confidence in the physics that we understand from about 10 to the minus 12 seconds after the Big Bang that leads to one of the things that leads to our confidence that we have the picture right. Our model describes what really happens. But keep in mind that what we're talking about is not a cosmic collision of gases. It's not something necessarily coming from anything pre-existing. It's actually the origin of everything in our universe, space, time, matter, and energy. So when you hear the word Big Bang, you can think about that as the creation event, the beginning, the origin of our universe. And if you believe in God, it would be His method then of creating this wonderful universe that we inhabit.